Welcome back to AFAR. I told you not to go too far because we wanted to see you back this week. So today's topic is who picks up the phone first? Dad or child? Before we get there, though, we have a special guest, but I just want to say what's up to Leonard real quick, and then we can introduce our guest and just go straight into this amazing conversation. Leonard, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. But Dad, let's just dive in. Listen, my question, Charles. Listen, I'm gonna dive in because this topic is triggering. I'm good, man. I'm maintaining. I'm swagging out. But listen, it's frustrating, man, Charles. Right? Let me ask you this. I mean, the guests will come in. There's a lot of frustration around this topic. Because how does a father navigating to that frustration internally without sounding too aggressive to the child? Because, co-parenting and you got to call the kids, and because, my kids are older. I know they call me when they need money, right? And it's okay. Kids trying to be resourceful, right? But that's the question, because I remember one time I kind of snapped in the wave and I'm like, oh, I was not too aggressive. I told him like, hey, come, calling daddy. But I didn't mean in a bad way, right? But at least I know how to navigate that internally.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? Many of the dad don't, and it's hard.
You know what, man? That's a good question. Well, with my own dad, that joker only talked to me once a year.
Wow.
And then when he got on the phone, I say, Dad, you got some money? That one time a year. All you do is ask me for money. So, that little $5 he used to give me once a year eventually turned to zero. And I said, you know what? If that's what you think, I ain't gonna call you no more. But I can see both perspectives, right? Child calling dad, not knowing what else to say, but saying, hey, I need some money. On the flip side, the kid's like, well, that's all you think I want. What's the point of having a conversation? So that's one category of picking up the phone. But how do you deal with that internal conflict? Because both sides are dealing with it. I mean, that's the question.
Wow.
And what I would say, Leonard, is for the man dealing with that side of the conversation, get out of your head. It ain't about your ego. Move your ass out the way, your head will follow. Right? That's what you got to do, man, because at the end of the day, if the goal is about maintaining a relationship with your children, then take the question. I'll just say, I ain't got no money. But can we hang out still?
Come on.
Now, if I do get a couple dollars, I may consider giving it to you, right? But I want to spend time with you. And for the kid, sometimes, man, all you know is what you know. Like for me, all I knew, asking for money. Hell, he only called me once a year. Hell, I didn't know anything else.
Right.
That's what I thought. I mean, if I would have knew something else, I would have asked for something else, right? So another thing is it isn't personal, and sometimes we take it personal. But there's another category here. We got Sean, who got some special stuff to say.
Guest.
Sean Pinnick, our guest. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, and then I'm gonna ask Sean a few questions. Me and Leonard, we can just ask Sean some questions. Just jump right in. Who picks up the phone?
I think because that's a triggering question.
It is.
Charles?
It triggers the hell out of you.
And I think it's like the internal piece, but I know how to manage it, dealing with it.
Yeah, man.
And kids are just being resourceful too.
That's it.
That's why you got to deal within like what's going on, so you don't project on the kid. You know that word, projecting.
Yeah, brother Sean.
Yes, sir.
You got to introduce yourself to us, brother, so we can get to this conversation.
How you doing, guys? Nice to see you. My name is Sean Pinnick.
Hey, tell us a little bit about you, Sean. Yeah, we can hear you. Tell us a little bit about Sean Pinnick, the man, the myth, and the legend.
Come on.
Oh, well, I've been a father I was just thinking about this for over 38 years, man. And get back to you guys, when you guys were talking about your dad, I couldn't pick up the phone. I had to go find him and get the money.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Come on, Sean.
I had to go find him. You know what I mean? And he come through when he had it, when he didn't. I wasn't expecting, didn't have all those expectations with me. You know what I mean? Just being a black man, I know it's a struggle, period. Now, on the basis of children, I always had this philosophy: it take two people to make a baby, and that is your kid. That is your blood, right? So you have to understand, take ego, definitely got to get out the way. You know what I mean? A kid's gonna be a kid. You got to think back when you were a kid. You know what I mean? Yeah, I need some money. Hey, holler on the phone. Pick up the phone and talk to your child. Whether you got money, don't got money, it don't matter. Let's just chill out for a little while. Let's just hang. Let's play ball. Let's bat and ball. Throw a ball with a glove. Whatever makes it work. Just to get that time in with them. Because they have to know who you are as a father. You know what I mean? You got to eliminate yourself from that because you're dealing with a kid. You know what I mean?
Sir, how do you do that when you on that phone? That kid be like, you know what, Daddy, give me some money.
I ain't got no money, son. I didn't answer the question. I ain't got no money, son. If I have it, I wouldn't mind sharing it with you. But if I got it, you got it. You know what I mean? That's it. Next, can we hang out?
I like that, sir.
Straight to the point.
Can we hang out? You know.
Oh, man.
You gotta have that relationship. You gotta have that cordial relationship with your child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The child can tell if you got it or you BSing them. You know what I mean? A child's smarter than we think they are. You know what I mean? They can tell that. They can sense that. So I just speak the truth.
Listen, Sean, my follow-up question for you, right? And you know, me and you live this and we seen this. Now, dads who are coming home from jail or dads who make mistakes that they've been embarrassed about, right? And they haven't seen their kids in years, but they have some reluctancies to pick up that phone.
Yeah.
Who picks up the phone first if the dad hasn't seen his kid in the years? Is it dad or the child? Who you going with?
Well, Che, I'm going to say the dad should pick up the phone, but I'm going to also say it depends on what age that child is also.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If the child's over 20, it's a two-way street, baby. You can pick up the phone. And you always on YouTube or Facebook or something like that. You can pick up the phone. Ain't nothing wrong with your hands. You know? You can do that. You can pick up the phone just as well. It would be nice. Thank you.
Yo, Charles, he's not playing, man. Wow.
Shut is killing it.
Remember me? I remember me, son. I'm your daddy.
Right.
You know what I mean? I miss hanging out with you. I miss, us doing things together. But when we get to those teenage years, our friends are more important than the parent is.
Yeah.
When I was going through that, I got lost for a second because I gave up my friends, I gave up all that to raise my kids. And then when my kids become of age, it's like, Dad, we can't hang out no more. You're too old. I'm like, what? What? So I just shrugged that off right then and there. But it bothered me. I had to go back and I had to reassess the situation. I'm like, you know what? This kid, he got a point. He's 16, 17 years old. I can't be chilling with him and his friends like that. They need that time too as well. I can understand that. So I backed up a little bit.
Yeah.
I ain't let you get away from me.
I hear that.
Once a month minimum, at least every other week or something, we gonna do something, some kind of way.
So you came up with a schedule, right? So, let me ask you this, because I'm glad you mentioned that. If we can expand on that, ask Charles the same question. What was it for you, that frustration process? Because the reality is something that we battling on the inside, whether the child or the dad. Like you said, you have to step back. What was that process internally? Because we don't touch on that, right? What was that process for you? What was it like?
Well, it was heart-wrenching. It was hurtful, but in a good way. You understand? In a good way. I had to remove myself from a teenage situation because I always had my kid. I had enough for a lifetime, right? Before they figured it out. I got mine in, you know what I'm saying? All right? So it was painful. I had to personally come to a reality check, and examine that whole entire situation due to the fact that these kids are teenagers now. When I was a teenager, I didn't want to be around my mother and father neither. I was like, my friends were more important,
Right.
When you go through that adolescence, right? So I had to accept that. So I came up with another deal. I understand, with no malice, no nothing. I understand because I went and I vented it out and processed it. Then I came back to the table. So the kid doesn't have to see me go through that. You know what I mean? So I can meet them at their level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the adult here, right? You got to be the adult at all times. Once you have a kid, you got to be the adult. You know what I mean? You got to be the adult.
20.
Come on.
Even when they're 20, I'm telling you, even when they're 30, you gotta be an adult. It don't go away.
Yeah.
You got a lifetime. You know what I mean? And you know, us as black men, we're not taught and trained to internalize like that dealing with a kid.
Come on.
I had to learn this as I went, but I always reassessed it too. You know what I mean? You always have to go back and reassess, make changes. You know, the good book tells you, get used to change, baby.
Yeah.
So soon as the quicker you get through that and accept it, you'll make matters a little bit easier. Most importantly, leave ego out the way, baby. Leave ego out the way and your way out the way. Let that child grow up into his own.
Sean,
or her own.
Sean, I have to ask you this, right? Because, you know, you've lived it and you've seen it. And I have to ask you this question. So for those dads specifically who wants to pick up the phone and they made mistakes in their past and they haven't seen their kids in a long time, what would be your advice to them for them to move forward their phone call? Because we know a lot of brothers right now who are looking at the phone right now. I want to call my kid. but I don't know if they're going to accept me. They're looking at the phone, but they can't pick it up. What would be your advice in that moment as they're looking at their phone, getting ready to pick it up? What would you say to them?
I'd say put some verbs in your sentences, throw that mountain off of your chest, and pick that damn phone up.
Woo!
Pick it up. Worst case scenario, look, I don't want to talk to you. Be expecting that because you know why? You spend too much time contemplating on should I pick up the phone? Should I pick up the phone? Pick up the damn phone. Period. At least this way here, you know. And you know what you got to deal with, and you know what you got to do. Regardless of your mistakes and all that, that is your child.
Come on.
At some point in their life, you can talk to them about that. As they, depending what age they are. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just gotta save it for later to have that straight out conversation until they get a little older. You understand?
So I like that. You said put some mop on your. So you said put some mop on your chest. I love that.
You gotta slam that mountain off your chest.
Come
baby,
on,
and get it. That is your baby. You talking about it, but you gotta put some verbs in there. You gotta commit action. Action. You know what I mean? I can understand you contemplating a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, you get a little bit nervous. I even done that. Right? But no, pick it up. Let's go. Pick it up. Let's go. At least you know. Now you know. Now you heard their voice. They heard yours. And what a godly feeling that comes over you. And you just got to deal with whatever's there. Be open-minded, baby. You know what I mean? Be open-minded. You know, if you talk to the kid, I'm sure the kid 9 times out of 10 would have an understanding. Especially if you're a black man. I hate to keep saying that, but that's what it is. Nobody ever taught us how to be a dad. You can go read a book. Before, when I was having my kids, there wasn't no book out there about being a parent. And then you got to be careful what literature you're reading about being a parent. Because it takes a village to raise a child, not just one man. Folks got to understand it. That's that American colonial business. You know what I mean? Oops. You know? We need each other. We need other fathers.
So you fired up today, brother.
What they say in the church, Charles? Ouch. Ouch.
Woo, let me put my amen on that. Amen on that. Now, Brother Sean, I know Brother Sean has his own business and he has to run. But brother, before you run, can you give us any last minute knowledge nuggets for these dads who are struggling right now to reconnect with their kids after not speaking to them in a long time? You said a lot already, but any last minute nuggets?
Yeah, you know what? It's called courage. Take the initiative and the courage to slam that mountain off your chest and just to pick up that phone that weighs not even 8 ounces. You pick up a bottle of water, right? You pick up a cold drink to thirst yourself, right? You need to pick up that phone and holler at your baby. You know what I mean? Take it on. That's my word.
Come on now, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a black dad, white dad, Asian dad, I know you just was fired up after you heard Sean.
Amen.
We will see you again, brother. Take care, man.
See you, man.
Brothers. Thank you for having me.
Always.
Anytime.
Love you, man.
All right. One love, man. One
All
love,
right,
guys.
peace.
All right.
Yep.
Wow. Amazing, isn't it? Wow.
Oh, Sean be getting me fired.
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing though. You know, and he made a lot of valid point, man.
Did he? I'm about to cry over here because it was so powerful.
But you know what, Charles? The age factor, because that's so important in our conversation too, because as you ask him, you know, come out of jail, and what do you do when a child is 2 or 3 or 4? Do you wait, right? And how do you wait, Charles? That's the question. And remember the age factors. How do you wait? And the other part of the conversation is also, how do you receive support regarding that courage? Because you can't do it alone.
Let me tell you something, man. You know, and if you're listening to me right now, I'm about to tell you something. Some of you all may be offended by me, and some of you may not, but I have to say this, Leonard, because it's on my heart. Sometimes the vagina removes one's courage. See, individuals get caught up in what happened, the sex ain't getting it no more, you know, they ain't doing their thing anymore, man. And sometimes the focus don't even be the child when they pick up the phone, So the question that we have to ask ourselves as we're navigating internally, why am I picking up the phone in the first place? If you're picking up the phone to get back in good relationship with the mother of the child, then that may be the wrong reason to pick up the phone, right? Because she may not want you anymore. But if the goal is to genuinely have a relationship with your child, if the child is younger, Lynn, because we're talking about younger children now, the child is younger and you generally want to re-engage back in your kid's life, regardless of what you and that woman had, if she moved on, it's not about that. I think some guys get stuck on that and the call can't turn into anything tangible between them and the child because they're still holding on to the good time them and the child's mother have. And sometimes the reality is we are never going to get back the relationship that we had with the child's mother.
Right.
But you always can cultivate and nurture that relationship with the child. And I think when guys pick up the phone sometimes, you got to make sure that your motives is correct. Because when your motives are wrong, when you pick up that phone, you may be picking up your worst nightmare.
Check yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check your motives.
That's it.
Right? And vagina is a powerful thing.
Oof.
Right? So if you still stuck on how good it was and you try and pick up the phone at the same time, you may not need to pick up that phone until you get over it. Right? Make sure that you clear that you have passed the memories of the good vagina. Because the phone is for you to stay connected with your kid, and that is it. And maintain a respectable relationship with the child's mother, but nothing else. Respectable relationship isn't me having the possibility of getting back in your drawers. Wow. So I'm going to be nice to the kid so I can be on that right track. No, respectable relationship, I respect you from afar. I love you enough to respect you and to treat you right in front of my child and to focus solely on my child. That's respectable relationship for men.
And that focus, right, and remember the focus is that it's all about the child, right? Because keep in mind that you want the child to be happy and to be loved.
Yeah.
So it goes the conversation of different family dynamic.
Yes, Leonard.
You and your feelings like, man, she move on. She got another man. I don't want that child to call daddy. And
yeah,
so if you don't deal with that internally, you're going to project that to the child. You know, listen, I'm your father. I was not there, but you can't talk like that.
Yeah. Leonard, listen, Leonard.
Family dynamic.
I think those issues, when we don't deal with them, is what makes that phone hard to pick up in the first place. Right? Like Sean said, the dang phone is only 8 ounces. Right? You can pick up the phone for anything. It takes you a second to pick up the phone. Man. But it isn't the weight of the phone that you're actually dealing with. It's the weight of the past that you can't control that you're dealing with that's preventing you from picking up the phone. So you're looking at the phone, you get ready to approach it. I can't pick up that phone. You can't pick up the phone because it's physically heavy. You can't pick up the phone because your soul is heavy with what happened in the past and with what you want right now that you can't have right now, which is what happened in the past. Or maybe you blaming yourself for what occurred in the past. But at the end of the day, man, guys, we have to understand the relationship with our children is sacred. And we got to move all that stuff out the way and be vulnerable and be humble and pick it up.
It's so vital. And then the other part of the conversation is also, you got to keep in mind that the legality of the situation too, because, and then the safety concern, because the other parent, usually the mom, will say, the child may not be ready to pick up the phone because the child have not engaged with you in a long time, but you are in your feelings.
Yeah, because he won't call you.
You won't call. And with that, I realize, you know what? You have to look at from also.
Ego.
Listen, you're not a threat or safety concern to your child, right? But you have to be mindful of that legal factor too. You know what? Sometimes give space. And it's hard. I'm not saying this is very hard, right?
It's hard, guys.
That patient. So we're not trying to, make
we ain't
everything is
sugarcoating
perfect.
this.
Please, it's hard. You acknowledge that. but you want to breathe, right?
Breathe. You know how to breathe? Breathe in, 10, breathe out.
So age factor is important. That's
It
so
is.
important, right? Because we have a situation, this is how we support that. And get support too. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. But Charles, sacrificing your ego.
Sacrifice your ego. You
That's
know
hard
what?
though.
It is hard, Leonard. I'm gonna tell you too, sacrificing your ego and bringing down your expectations. What does that mean? Some of you all are getting ready to pick up the phone or want to pick up the phone. You got unrealistic expectations. For you to think that, hey, my mistake has been made and I can just easily walk back into this situation and have this amazing relationship with my child and the child's mother without having to sacrifice and pay the price is unrealistic, right? There's this subject called maternal gatekeeping, which is proven in research that when mothers have seen that the father hasn't been consistent or they fear that someone is going to hurt their child, they're going to put their block up so the child won't be able, so the father won't be able to engage as easily as he did before in fear that the father will hurt them again or hurt the child again. So at the end of the day, people are all hurt here from the mistakes that we've made. So it takes time for one to be able to work through those mistakes. It ain't gonna happen overnight. That's just like saying, you know what? Tomorrow, a cloud is gonna fall from the sky and I'm gonna be able to touch it and take me some of that cloud home and eat it. Now, how unrealistic is that? That's how you sound when you think, hey, I left the house for a while, I could just easily come back, or, you know, I was in jail for a while and I could just easily come back and my kid's just gonna embrace me with open arms. It doesn't work like that, guys.
Like that,
like, you can't just go in the gym and get a six-pack in 1 week if you ain't working out hard. It's gonna take you like 3 months to get a six-pack, but you gotta work hard as hell, but you ain't gonna get no six-pack in a week. So stop thinking you are.
No, and part of that work, and I think as men and as father too, part of that work to also understanding women as mothers and their response to anger. Because once you understand that, you kind of put that in the equation, and it helps too because you have to be able to see from the other side, the perspective, and you can't do it alone. You read a book, come support. I mean, this is what we do, right? Just come check in, man, because understanding when you laid out a situation, by you understanding that, you know what, I got to deal with the mistake because she's still on the mistake stuff. She's still going to bring it up. So why do you think every time, when dad's out there advocating for parenting time, right, to try to pick up that phone, like, Your Honor, I want to make that phone call. Yeah. The first thing she going to bring it up is your past.
That's it.
She gonna bring it up. Your Honor, I'm not comfortable. I'm not safe around him. I'm not trying to mock any mothers out there. We want to acknowledge the frustration. It's so important.
It's frustration.
It's all about safety, right? But you have, as a strategist, as a dad, as you're battling internally, it's good to know these things because it does matter. Because when you include the courts in the picture, Your Honor, I just want to pick up the phone, Your Honor. I just want to pick up the phone, but she won't let me pick up the phone, and there's a restraining order, and we're not trying to mock anything again. We're not trying to minimize it, but it's so important to understand, you know what, let me understand her as a mom. Let me understand how the mistake I've caused the parenting relationship. Let me understand her response to anger.
Let me add some clinical nature to this.
Come on, Charles.
A little clinical
I set
fire.
you up. That's what.
Listen, you just, Little, you trigger me.
Listen, man, we gotta get triggered. Come on, Charles.
Listen, you're not going to be able to understand and be patient with her, despite how negative she may treat you. If you can't be patient with yourself and what you've done in the past that separated you from your child in the first place. Being separated from your child is one of the most traumatic things that can ever happen to a father. Every waking day that you're away from your kid, you're hurting. But be mindful that when you're hurting, the woman is going to feel you hurting. It ain't just, well, I'm hurting and I'm just going to get my way here. No, she knows you're hurting and she's going to feel it. You got to do the best that you can to make sure that you keep your hurt in check so it does not create more of a barrier between you being able to be present for your child. So, hurt people hurt people. And if you
say that again.
Hurt people.
Come on, man.
Look, whoa, what time is it? Game time. Hurt people hurt other people. But if you can't see your hurt or acknowledge your hurt, you're not going to be able to engage with another hurt person, which is the woman. You can't. You got to be a little bit more mature and a little bit more patient to get what you want. If the end goal is to be connected to your kid, then hell, I'll do anything I gotta do. What will you do for your kid? I get hit by a bus for my kid. I do anything. Any goddamn thing. Excuse my French. I just got fired up thinking about the things that I would do for my kid. That's how you got to be. But a part of doing that for your kid is to humble yourself and to know when you hurt, they're gonna feel it. How can I be hurt and at the same time embrace it so I can navigate and continue to be present? How do we do that, Leonard? I'm gonna give some input on that too.
Well, I think the first thing we do that too, that self-love component is important.
Come on, Leonard.
Right?
Say
Love
more
yourself,
about that.
right? Love yourself. Because that become that foundation. And if you believe in a higher power, you throw God in the equation. For those of us out there, we throw Christ.
Oh,
right?
shoot, Leonard.
So once we do that, right, you be able to, we fill that tank. Because every time you out of energy, your tank is empty, we fill that. But that self-love is the key. And I even recommend start basic, man, self-gratitude. Build yourself, because by doing that, it's going to give it the courage to pick up that phone. So self-love is the key. And if you don't know how to do it, it's all right? Seek support. But humility too. Humility, be humble. And it's tough. I get that. We all going through it. Self-love and humble, and be patient with yourself. No, don't rush the process. And when you're dealing with external factors of, interacting with courts or legal stuff, because all you want to pick up the phone, study that, be educated about yourself too. But most importantly too, as we engage in, dad who's returning home or from incarceration, you got to keep in mind too that know how it works, be patient, right? You're just out, you're anxious, you want to pick up the phone, you want to go see it, right? But the law on the other side may not be ready for you. And that's why you have to fight. So we're going to support you how to fight too. So you got to fight too. So
yeah. And listen, we're going to have some mothers on here tell us what's going on.
Yes, indeed.
Right. But I also want to say this too, Leonard, is that dads out there, whoever's listening, one of the worst feelings that I think contributes to that phone becoming 100 pounds is the fear of rejection. That's the worst thing that you're already thinking about. You're already thinking that you lost the game before you even put the phone to your ear.
Wow.
And that keeps you, another thing that keeps you from being able to move forward with it. And sometimes, guys, the worst thing that can happen when you're rejected is that you learn from it and you see why you were rejected. If you are rejected because the person's hurt and they're just not ready to entertain that conversation, you're not to blame for that rejection. All you can do is try. Try and try and try until you get what it is that you want. You have to keep trying. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Come on, Charles.
The guy who built the freaking light bulb tried 90 to 100 times before he got it right. What's that man named? Benjamin Franklin?
Yep.
I think that's his name.
Is that something?
Right?
Somebody, right?
You have to try and try again. And you're going to fail sometimes, but there's nothing wrong with failure. People learn from their failures. But if your ego is preventing you from taking away the lesson, then you've already lost. So fail, learn, and then pick up the phone again. Fail, learn, then pick up the phone again, right? And then you got to navigate that. And I think another mistake that a lot of men make, Leonard, is that when they fail, they don't accept the lesson.
Yep.
I think that's insanity, right?
Yeah.
Right? Doing the same thing and expecting different results is insanity. You have to learn. Learn what the mother of the child likes. Learn what triggers her. You got to be more mature and more in control than she is with your own emotions. Because 9 out of 10, if it's a bitter mom, she knows what triggers you. So if you show her that you've been triggered, right, you've already lost the game. So we're going to go into the little mind games and plan a little bit later. But we just want to make sure that you're healthy and that you give yourself enough compassion to fail and try again, because you deserve it. And no one gets to where they are in life who's successful without failing a few times.
That's it.
What Denzel Washington says, he said, you have to fail forward. Right? People fail and they just say, I'm not going to try again. Like one of the go-to for a lot of men who've been hurt so much, Leonard, is say, you know what? The mother of the child won't allow me to see my kid, so I'm not going to try. That's the quick go-to. But that's not failing forward. That's failing backwards and giving up altogether. Failing forward is, okay, I see that, she's hurt still. I'm going to be more compassionate when I'm engaging with her so I can see my child. I will take that sacrifice, right? So I'm going to learn what's pissing her off, what triggers her, so I can navigate accordingly to get to my child. Because that's what it's all about, Leonard, your child at the end of the day.
And it's packaging in 3 things. That's what we have seen the work that we do. De-escalation.
Come on, Leonard.
You always have to be in de-escalation mode. Let me rhyme here. De-escalate mode and sacrifice your ego. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
You gotta be on de-escalate mode.
Yes.
So that means that when you're engaging, you're so intentional about how you're gonna de-escalate. So that de-escalation entails focus on the child. And the other part is safety, right? Safety. So important because the The argument occurred because the whole pick up the phone, but think about the safety. And the third part is agree to disagree, because that's just human nature. You're going to agree to disagree. So know how to kind of negotiate and kind of compromise. And that usually comes with the fact that sometimes you kind of have those clarifying statements. You say, just so I hear you clearly, right? Just for my own understanding. You want to kind of tone it down, right? And you're going to see how it's going to kind of bring it down the nuts, right? So remember that it's so important to start de-escalation. Be on de-escalating mode. Sacrifice your ego. Right, and then safety, the safety of the child, and agree to disagree. And there's a science to it. You agree to disagree, stand on the fact that once you get it how she is, and because you know the mother of your child better than anybody else, and back and forth, right? And and I say go from there. But listen, we got you, man.
We got you.
We got you.
We got you. We're removing you from the pissing contest. It's not about a pissing contest. It's about your kid, baby.
We understand. Listen, we've been there, we've done it. I think we had an amazing guest. We're not trying to, make it seem that everything is easy, but it takes work. Don't give up. Yes, sometimes you're going to want to give up. And to Sean's point about the age factors, the older kids, let me throw some last gem in here. Like, if the kids are older, one thing can work, text or email. Words are powerful. We have a situation where we have to tell the dad, you know what? The child is 18. You know what? Just text. I hope you have a good day. I'm sorry things are this way, but know that I love you.
You got to get creative, guys. But you can't get creative if you're stuck in the pissing contest. So remember that. So as we close, right? And we're going to keep this dialogue going. Remember, you cannot get caught up in your own emotions and expect to get easy access to your child. Because when you're caught up in your own emotions, you are going to play and run into someone else's emotions, which is the mother of your child, if the relationship ended on a bad note. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you know what you're feeling so you can stay in control at all times. We got to be mindful, guys, and we're just going to keep continuing to take you through this process and just share a little bit about our insight. So as you reflect on what we talked about today, who picks up the phone first, child or the father, we learned two things here. It depends on age. And if you do want to pick up the phone, realize that the phone only weighs 8 ounces or less. If it's hard for you to pick up the phone, be honest with the emotional pain that's making that phone 100 pounds when you pick it up. Will you acknowledge it and embrace it? You're one step closer to your child. So don't go too far. We hope to see you next week at AFAR. Take care.
Peace.
Fathers uplift. We can prove it. Fathers uplift. It takes a village. Fathers uplift. We'll help you through it. Time and time again, the narrative penned about fathers is that they don't want to be there for their children. But what's hardly ever mentioned is how there are a multitude of reasons a father can go missing. More than the he doesn't care or he wouldn't dare step up because he doesn't love his children enough ones. It's true. Some fathers don't want to be involved at all, but contrary to popular belief, that percentage is extremely small. Before we start saying this dad was intentionally an absentee, we must first assess whether he isn't there but wants to be. We must also evaluate whether mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, economically, socially, environmentally, fathers are equipped to maintain positive relationships with their children. Fathering is not a singular act. If he lacks his village and community support, then of course he may go MIA. That's why therapist Charles C. Daniels and Samantha Fields Daniels founded Fathers Uplift to help guide and provide them with the mental health services they need so want-to-be fathers can actually make better decisions for themselves and their families.